Look at the eye test then, because he's the one who plays every week. He's the one who's running around and putting more effort in than everyone else. He'd get in most Sir Alex teams, let alone Arsenal, who can't win the league even when City stop playing. Like, he would get in every single team, I think, in the world, Bruno Fernandes.
I think you have to back Ruben Amorim.
Have you seen an improvement in this team?
Yeah, and I'm hesitating because I think Osimhen is the most likely, because I think he's going to be available for the type of price that United can afford. I think it will get resolved. I think he'll stay.
It's between 1992 and 1997. I think it was 64 goals and 51 assists Cantona got. Bruno, between 2020 and 2025, has got 62 goals and 50 assists. So it's 2 goals and 1 assist off that. We're talking proper numbers here.
He's going to be introduced as a Manchester United legend, and rightly so.
As soon as the stat man started to go there, comparing Bruno Fernandes.
I knew that would
It was
get you.
nasty work. He knew what he was doing. Yeah, he knew.
You've lost me completely there. You know?
No, because I don't trust these people. I do not trust Ineos to make smart decisions.
Hello and welcome to Inside Devils talkSPORT's Man United show, bringing you everything coming out of Old Trafford. And what a week it was. Back-to-back wins. We haven't been able to say that much. There can't be any negativity in the studio today. I will make sure of it. Joining me this week is, of course, Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly. And making his studio debut is Joe Smith from the Stretford Paddock. Of course, big up to you for coming in, studio debut. And Ryan Scott-Douglas will be joining us for some fearsome debate as well. But first, let's kick off with the mauling that we gave Leicester City on Sunday night. Another Bruno Fernandes spectacular. He was brilliant with 2 goals. With a goal and 2 assists. And he sent us on our way to a 3-0 win in the East Midlands. Joe, for you, Bruno Fernandes, he has been the topic of every Man United fan recently. I know Roy Keane's comments sort of sparked it all up. Kind of since then, he's just putting fingers to lips.
But I think he was doing that anyway.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I love Roy Keane, and I think he's a great pundit and obviously one of the best players United have ever had. But I just think he was completely wrong with that. And I think he almost it ended up being funneled into Bruno Fernandes almost exclusively, talking about captains and all that. When really, I think he just lost his head a bit. I think he got a little bit annoyed at him, right? I think he got a little bit annoyed at how bad we've been. And it ended up being the sort of Bruno Fernandes hate fest. But I just think, look at every single season. Look at what Bruno Fernandes does. How can you criticise him in a team that is underperforming? And it's not because of him. We've seen, while he's been there, Rashford get 30 goals. And we've seen Rashford get 8 goals. Like, you can't just account for that. But throughout all of this, Bruno's getting 20-plus goals and assists every season. Every single year. He's on 31 already this season in a team that is, 13th in the league? That is unprecedented for a number 10. Like, he's literally the most productive number 10 on the planet right now. Like, factually. And I can't believe
people
that
don't like that fact. A lot of people, it's not just about stats.
All right, well,
use your eyes.
Look at the eye test then, because he's the one who plays every week. He's the one who's running around and putting more effort in than everyone else. He's the one linking every single thing together on the pitch. And you look at his defensive numbers when he plays a bit deeper as well. You can see he's putting that effort in and he's getting tackles and winning the ball back. He literally does everything. And I don't, that's not to say he's the best player in the world or the best player we've ever had. But I think of all the things to criticise, he's literally at the bottom of the list for me.
Yeah.
Everything else at Man United is worse than him. He's probably the best thing we've got. And I think this whole thing of Bruno Fernandes not being good enough and because he throws his arms around, he's terrible, it's absolutely ridiculous. And this whole thing of he won't get in this team, that team or the other team, he'd get in most Sir Alex teams, let alone Arsenal, who can't win the league even when City stop playing. He would get in every single team, I think, in the world, Bruno Fernandes. And, I think it's time that we appreciate him and stop this, he has 3 bad games, so he's terrible. He has 3 bad games, so he's amazing. Look what he does year in, year out. In the last overall, 6 years, he's been involved in 250 goals, whether that be a goal or assist, more than any number 10 on the planet. Let's just say he's world class and start talking about something else. Yeah. Because there is no debate with Bruno Fernandes.
We've got a lot of problems. Angelina, we'll come to you on Rasmus Hojlund and we'll get to Crookie in just a second.
Yeah.
Rasmus Hojlund broke his duck, finally. Finally gets a goal.
Finally.
There was a much improved performance from him against Real Sociedad in the second leg. Didn't score, but much improved performance.
Yeah.
Then goes on to score a really good goal, albeit, yes, against an awful Leicester City side. But brilliant for Rasmus to finally score a goal.
Yeah, I think for me, I was happy to see him score. You know, it had been like, what was it, like 94 days or something ridiculous like that. I don't want to be too critical because I'm not one to just start applauding mediocrity. Like, this is what he's supposed to be doing. I understand it's been difficult. I know that he says, you know, I'm still quite young. He is 22. And in a world where, you know, young players are performing and excelling, I don't know if he can 100% rely on the youth card. But I also understand it's been very difficult for him. There's been a lot of pressure on him. He's kind of been the only, you know, number 9 that we've had because we couldn't rely on Anthony Martial when he was there. And he was just kind of thrown into it. So I am happy to see it. He seems like one of these players that plays, it's all down to his confidence. So I think his first Premier League goal in his first season was Boxing Day. And then he went on this run where he scored like 7 more goals. So he does seem to be a little bit streaky at times, perhaps. And it seems like once he gets a goal, he gets this confidence. So I'm hoping it will start to kind of, you know, build and he can take this momentum and carry it through. But yeah, I mean, I do feel sorry for the lad. And I think we desperately need goals. And at this point, with at least just trying to get a little bit higher up this Premier League table, we've got a chance in this Europa League. If there was any time that I'd want him to start building his confidence, it is now because, you know, I want to go to Bilbao. So.
Yeah, so that's the reason why you just want to get there.
I want a holiday. Yeah.
Crookie, for you, listen, we saw a glimpse of a lot of the youngsters. You know, we saw Harry Amas making his Premier League debut. What a fantastic birthday present for him at 18 years of age. We saw Toby Collier on the pitch. We saw Chido Obi on the pitch. And of course, worryingly, we saw Aidan Heaven taken off of the pitch on a stretcher, but was having a fantastic game before that. Firstly, Crookie, any idea or info on sort of when we can expect him back? And have we seen a little glimpse into the future, though, just with the youngsters that we're seeing making appearances at the minute?
Yeah, I think we have, and I think this was always going to be the case towards the back end of the season. I think when you look at where Manchester United are in terms of the Premier League, they can afford to experiment a little bit and give youth a chance. And then you look ahead to the summer. I don't think there's going to be hundreds of millions of pounds to spend. Obviously, there's going to be some departures which will free up funds, but I think part of Amorim's remit is going to be to blood the youngsters and get them into the first team, and he's certainly not been afraid to do that. I feel really sorry for Heaven. I don't have a formal update yet, but it didn't look great, did it? I'll try and find out over the next couple of days exactly the severity of that injury. Obviously, a lot of the players have gone away on international duty. Ruben Amorim won't face the media for a couple of weeks now, but I thought his cameo against Arsenal was really impressive, and he sort of picked up where he left off there, the King Power. United have had rotten luck with injuries this season, particularly in those defensive positions, and I hope that the injury to Heaven is not as bad as it looked. I like Collier. I like his energy. I think he brings something a little bit different in midfield, and I know the football club are really big admirers of Amas. It's taken a long time actually to get him in and around the first team. Eric Ten Hag seemed reluctant to use him at the start of the season, but I expect him to get more minutes between now and May as well.
Crookie, for you, are we improving? Are we turning a corner? We're very cautious because we've had an awful season, right? But has there been things that you've seen in the last, 4 games, maybe last couple of months, maybe, I don't know. Have you seen an improvement in this team?
Yeah, and I'm hesitating because
that was so hesitant, just creeped up.
Whenever we get excited, the next smack in the face is only around the corner.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to look at it now as a string of performances in succession, which has been difficult for many a Manchester United manager to find that level of consistency. I thought the first leg away from home in Real Sociedad, probably we should have won that game. We were certainly the dominant force for the first hour. Second half against Arsenal, I thought we were excellent. And again, but for some wasteful finishing, would have won that one. Second leg against Sociedad, obviously a nightmare start, but we've come back and blown them away. And I know it's only Leicester, but it was a very competent, very confident Manchester United performance. So I think slowly but surely, this is a team who look like they're starting to understand what the manager wants them to do. They're starting to understand their jobs, and they're starting to become more confident in the system. And when it comes to the latter weeks of the season, I think the omens are good. I think the signs are positive for the Europa League. I expect us to beat Lyon over 2 legs. The semi-final is going to be more difficult, but I think Angelina might just get that trip to Bilbao. And,
you want the trip as well, Crookie.
I was going to say we'll all be there.
You love a little jolly as well.
We'll have a little meet up in Bilbao. Joe, for you, back to Aidan Heaven, actually, I wanted to discuss him because he was really good before that injury. It was almost like, it was one of those, you just go, I just feel so sorry for you, kid. You just don't deserve it. You're playing so well. Cameo against, not even a cameo, 45 minutes against Arsenal, solid.
Yeah.
You know, gets the nod in the Sociedad game at home, which at the time, you know, that's do or die for us. That's win or bust. Our biggest game of the season at that point. Gets trusted over the experienced Victor Lindelof, gets his first Premier League start just after that. How good is he looking? And what a snippet, 1.5 million. Thank you, Hojlund.
Yeah, I mean, and wasn't that just like a compensation fee as well?
Yeah.
I don't think we actually gave them like a transfer fee. It was basically a free deal that, you know, because of his age and circumstances, we had to give him a bit of money. But he's been brilliant, and he's just got that thing of like, you know, I'm not worried about him. Yeah. I'm worried about his injury, obviously, but when he's playing, I don't think, oh, it's the new lad, or it's, you know, the young kid. I just think, Heaven's got the ball, Heaven's passed the ball. Someone's going one-on-one with him, always took it off him. And I just, like, he's got a few attributes, I think, physically that are impressive. I think his height is, you notice it straight away when he's playing. He's a big guy, he's very tall. Obviously, he'll fill out a bit as he gets older, but his pace, he's not maybe electric, rapid pace, but he's quick. You know, someone almost got past him the other day for Leicester, and he turned around and got a foot back, which used that combination of height and pace as well. But more than that, it's on the ball where he impresses me. He's just so cool and composed, and I think he used to play as a midfielder up until quite recently, which maybe explains that passing ability and the confidence on the ball. When you think about a modern defender who can use that level of pace to go out wide and defend in the wings like Amrim likes his outside centre-backs to do, he's got everything. And it's such a shame, like I said, that injury, which was just a freak injury, stepping, trying to get the ball, and someone basically falls through his ankle. Hopefully it's nothing too serious, and I think he walked out of Old Trafford with a boot, didn't he? So the boot bit isn't great, but the walking bit's pretty good. You know, so hopefully it'll be, you know, we'll see him before the end of the season. But like I said, already I just think, Aidan Heaven's here, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's the biggest compliment you can give to a young player. Angelina, back to the strikers, because we did touch on Rasmus Hojlund a little bit ago, and we'll bring Crook in on this in a sec. The striker search.
Yeah.
Joshua Zirkzee is a self-proclaimed 9.5. You know, he's starting to find form and some consistency in this number 10 role. We maybe didn't think we'd see that. Some links to, of course, they're always there. Victor Osimhen, Victor Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, Hugo Ekitike I saw was the latest one. You know, some people have been discussing, you know, Danny Welbeck. You know, could we get him in Mateta and just as a stopgap? Where do Man United go in terms of the type of striker they need to try and go after versus, of course, we might not be in the Champions League, so that, you know, seriously affects who we can actually go and get.
It's a tough one because you have heard that Ineos are being quite strict with the age bracket that they're looking for. I think as a stopgap, getting somebody who, you know, is over 28, who can give a season or two, can give some experience. I think they need to decide what they're actually going to do with Rasmus Hojlund. Like, they've spent, 72 million on this kid. Are they going to stick with him, or is it a case of they want to move him on?
If they do stick with him, should it be is it stick with him and he learns off somebody else? Or
and this is what I'm thinking. So if they decide, you know what, we spent all this money on this kid, let's just like give him, you know, the best possible chance. I think bringing someone in who's a little bit older, who takes the pressure off him, he's not having to start every game, having someone that he can learn from. Because I guess when you think about it, had the Ronaldo thing not have gone as messy as it did, if he'd have stayed a little bit longer, that could have been someone that he'd have learned from. But, you know, obviously it didn't happen. So I think bringing somebody in like that would work. I mean, the person everyone is talking about is Alexander Isak, but you have to be realistic when you look at that. It's not happening. When you look at his options in general, I mean, Real Madrid aren't going to have him. Barcelona can't afford him. Can't see him going to Syria. Bayern Munich have got, you know, Harry Kane. It's kind of Premier League clubs for him. And unfortunately, you know, he's 26? He would want to be joining a club where in the next year or two you're going to be winning trophies. And unfortunately, there's no guarantees of that. No guarantees of Champions League football. In an ideal world, that is the kind of player that you would have in. But I think they need to... The future of Rasmus Hojlund is going to be really important in this, and maybe it is a case of they bring someone in who's a little bit older, they both play, builds Hojlund's confidence up, we have someone who's going to assure us of X amount of goals, and then maybe they continue the search as well for somebody if it does seem like Hojlund just doesn't really have it, which I don't like being negative, but just because he scored that one goal, I'm not convinced with him.
Crookie, Angelina's, you know, sort of finishing off there saying still not convinced. Yes, it's a great goal, but, you know, she said he's been very streaky, not a reliable goal scorer, which, again, his age and stuff, I get that. Do you think Man United should be looking to still retain Rasmus Hojlund and add to that? Or do you think if the right amount came in, you look to cash in on that and go in a different direction altogether and get 2 strikers? How are you seeing this playing out in the summer, Crookie?
Well, first and foremost, I think he took his goal really well. You know, he didn't finish that opportunity like someone who'd not scored for 20 games. So I was pleased for him. You could see the relief in his celebrations. But as I say, excellent finish. I think he'll move on at the end of the season. I think there's interest from Italy. I think Ineos and Ruben Amorim are not necessarily convinced that he's the man to lead the line moving forward. And I think of those list of names that you've read out, and Ekitike has been played down to me today. I'm not sure he's in any desperate rush to leave his current club. I think Osimhen is the most likely because I think he's going to be available for the type of price that United can afford. I think his wage demands have come down from where they were a year ago. Obviously, he's been playing in Turkey. And I think he has that proven pedigree. So it wouldn't surprise me if Hojlund goes back to Italy and there's interest from the likes of Napoli, I'm told, from Serie A, and Osimhen comes in the opposite direction.
Back to the squad and sort of the glimmers of improvement that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Another one we're really starting to see, I don't know what you think, is Matthias de Ligt. I think he's really started to knuckle down, show that he isn't this, again, fake narrative. I remember on episode 1 of the Inside Devils, we were talking here and I was going in on de Ligt basically saying, or people going in on him saying, listen, it's fake news that Eric Dyer played all the games ahead of him. It's just not true.
It's a lie.
It's just lies. He played over 100 games for Juve. Like, he's been ever present in these teams. I get he might not have kicked on to the level he might have wanted to, but this like notion that since he's left Ajax, he's been washed. Yeah. And now we're seeing a competent defender, fantastic block from Buonanotte against Leicester City on Sunday night. But what have you made of him and how he's been doing?
I think he's been really good all season. Yeah. Like I honestly, like, how many bad games he had? The one game that stands out for me where I thought, oh, he looked a bit ropey there, I thought the away game against Porto, where they kind of went through him and Martinez a little bit too easy. I thought there's maybe some pace issues there, I'm not sure. But other than that, I don't even think the Liverpool game he was particular. I think he's been a really good player almost every game this season. And that's more than you can say for most players at United. And like you said, this whole thing of he didn't play for Bayern Munich, just not true.
Annoying.
He's literally started almost every game he's been fit since he's about 17 years old for every club he's been at. Like, that's just the facts. He plays all the time. And injuries are the thing that stops him playing, not his manager not picking.
We saw it last year when Bayern were in that two-legged the semis of the Champions League and against Real Madrid. And he played in one at centre back, and then I think Dyer came in from in the second leg or the first leg, whichever one. Because he was injured. Thomas Tuchel wanted to play him.
It's literally just come about to try and have a go at him. And like you said, it's because when he was 19 and he was captain of Ajax, people were thinking he's going to be one of the great centre backs of all time. That was the path he was on. And then because he's not quite become the best centre back ever, people go, well, he must be terrible then. Because when you fail against your reputation or your potential, you must be bad. But he's still one of the better centre-backs in the Premier League. Yeah. I think he's been our most consistent centre-back. Obviously, Martinez has been good, but injuries, and everyone else has been in and out with injuries as well. He's the one that's been there almost every week, putting in great performances.
Different partners.
Yeah, different partners all the time. And now it's like, because we've won a few games, now people are looking back at the whole season going, it's actually been quite good. But you should be able to see that even in a bad performance, where if someone does well, and de Ligt tends to do well all the time, you can still give him credit as the season goes on, but I'm glad at least now a lot of people are starting to see it as well, because he barely puts a foot wrong, and he's putting in like 7.5s or 8s or 8.5s every single week. Yeah. I think he's a great player.
We're going to have to talk about Thursday night and our progression into Europe's finest competition, the only one that matters, the only one where we are the unbeaten team in all of Europe. Yes, the Europa League. Lyon await us in the quarterfinals after a 5-2 aggregate win over Real Sociedad. And over 2 legs, I would say we were pretty comfortable, really. It got a bit nervy when Bruno gave away that handball away at Sociedad, because you're thinking, guys, don't collapse here, just get back at 1-1. But we did, and we took it from there and destroyed them in the end. Our whole season is hanging in the balance on this, isn't it? The league, you want to try and get as high as you can, get some youngsters in, but doesn't matter, 13th, 10th, 12th, 14th, it's all one. The Europa League is exactly all we need to focus on, right?
Yeah, for many reasons. Not only for our, Inside Devils holidays, but also for, I completely agree. I think the Sociedad game, I think the first leg, I walked away from that almost a little bit disappointed because I feel like we could have won that. Watching the second leg, it was just so chaotic with, 2 penalty shouts that were weirdly quite similar. And it was just the sending off and, they were down to 10 men, so you would expect any team to be able to...
But they were down to 10 men because we made them.
Yeah.
Xerxes plays an amazing ball and Dorgu's on the gallop.
Yeah.
That's why they're down to 10 men.
Yeah.
Wasn't luck.
But I liked that, they killed the game off. Yeah. It wasn't just, you didn't feel as nervous when you're normally thinking, oh my God, something's going to happen there. They're going to mess it up. They're going to mess it up. They didn't mess it up. And I would imagine, for people that were at the game, just to have like a good, positive game.
Oh, it felt great.
At the stadium.
Well, the start wasn't. I mean, I'm thinking,
the start,
here we go again.
Head in
my
hands.
God.
Yeah, head in hands.
Yeah. But again, to recover from that as well straight away.
Yeah, I think that Patrick Dorgu looked great. Really, really excited about him as a player. I think that there were, Joshua Xerxes is... I still feel like, is he a Manchester United player? Does he really fit into this system? Probably not. But at this moment in time, this kid is improving and he's putting in performances and he's putting in a shift, and that's all you can ask from a player. So I was impressed by that. You look at Lyon, it's a bit of a motley crew when you actually look at, Lacazette is their top scorer in the league. And they've got a couple of, older players in there, experienced players. They've actually got Matic as well, Nemanja Matic. So
Maitland-Niles at right back.
I look, it is, yeah. And so I don't look at Lyon and feel fearful. I'm actually quite excited for that fixture. But yeah, the season... It is all about this Europa League, and I'm not going to sit here and say, we're 100% going to win it, but I just think if we can just have an enjoyable run in it and just not completely embarrass ourselves and just...
We're unbeaten, so they're giving you that. They're giving you that. Crookie, for you, I mean, look, the announcement of the new £2 billion stadium, how much pressure has that heaped onto this squad to, get back into the Champions League? And at first time of asking, we have seen reports that have said United are basically planning the next sort of 4 years of being in Europa League. But how much of a boost is it to get into the Champions League through this route, our only route?
I was going to say, if we don't win it, we're not going to have any European football at all. So I think it's absolutely pivotal, really, and it's looked that way for some time. I thought Real Sociedad were pretty poor over the 2 legs, and I'm not expecting too much more from Lyon. It's probably going to be Bilbao in the semi-final, and obviously with the final being in Bilbao, that will add a little bit of extra intensity. But I still think this is a competition that if United play as well as they can and as well as we've seen in dispatches this season, then they should win it. I really do. Even if it's United Tottenham in the final, I know Tottenham beat us every time we play at the moment, but I was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and they didn't pull up any trees against AZ Alkmaar, made it very difficult for themselves once Van der Ven went off. I still think in a one-off situation in a final, I would back United. So I think the next few weeks in Europe are going to be really pivotal. On the subject of the stadium, it's obviously the first time I've spoken to you guys.
Do you like it, Crookie? Come on, do you like it? We need to see what... I've been wanting to hear your opinion on this.
Well, my wife's from Bognor Regis. And the most famous landmark in Bognor is Butlins. And the first thing she said to me is, that looks like Butlins at Bognor. And I can see her point.
On to Kobbie Mainoo, Joe. I want to talk about him before we wrap up this section. How important is it that he stays at this football club? There's been so much noise in the last month or two about negotiations ongoing for a new contract. And it's divided opinion. I've seen a lot of United fans saying, hang on a minute, we love Kobbie Mainoo. We want him to stay, but we also have to be careful at United that we're not giving out massive contracts for players who haven't quite met that threshold yet. And then there's others saying, well, hang on a minute, if Mason Mount's on 250 grand a week and Casemiro's on this and Anthony's on this, etc., Kobbie Mainoo's got every right to sort of walk in there and say, hang on a minute, I'm seen as your plan. But then the new managers come in and we don't really know what Kobbie's best position is in this formation.
I'll be honest, Ineos don't really strike me as the sort of people that are going to give away a lot of money easily. Like, he'll be lucky if he gets what he was on his last contract, let alone a pay rise. Like, we've cut that in half and you have to bring your own food in now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any way he's on like 200 plus grand a week. I know I've seen 180 being a number that's been discussed. I would even be surprised if it's that. I think it'll be, like, it's going to be in the ballpark of a player, you're an important player of the squad, but you've only been in the squad since November 2023. So it's been 18 months or, pushing 2 years of him being in the squad. Like, it's not going to be long before he's, one of the first team players and all that. But then you'll get another contract then anyway. So I think he's going to get something that reflects how long he's been there. And the fact, like you said, he's not necessarily first name on the team sheet under Amram, but I do think he's going to be a big player. I don't understand what people want. Like, you want to get rid of him just because he's asked for a bit of money. Like, realistically, this is what all footballers do. This is what everyone does in every job. Like, he's come in and he's been one of the main men at Man United, especially under Ten Hag. He's going to ask for a bit of money. Why wouldn't he do that? And if we'd have signed him from another club, we'd be giving him 150, 180 grand a week, because that's what you do with new signings. So I just think that give him what he's worth, which is probably somewhere between 120, 170, somewhere in that ballpark, and just enjoy him. I don't want to sell him. I don't want to get rid of him. I think he's a brilliant player, and he should be the sort of player that Man United, build around. It's the sort of player that we've built our history around, as these academy players, who is, in terms of a profile of player, not actually like anyone I've seen come through our academy. His composure and his ball playing and his sort of just general demeanour and confidence and intelligence on the pitch. I've never seen a midfielder like that at Man United, and I don't think he should go anywhere personally.
Is there a threshold or a point that Man United shouldn't go past? Should they make sure they don't get held to ransom? Is there still more for us to see as fans from Kobbie Mainoo? He's burst onto the scene, scored the winning goal in the cup final, which is you're in history straight away. Scored against Liverpool, got into the England squad, got to the final. So he'd done so much in such a short space of time. This season, fractured season with injury, change of manager, up and down, position change.
Yeah.
Do we need to be careful not to go too early? He's got a contract till 2028. Should we wait? Or do we risk not showing Kobbie enough sort of commitment to the status, like what Joe said, that he probably deserves in this squad?
I think that he deserves the commitment, because when you look in a period of time where United have been so awful and you've really questioned the mentality of quite a lot of players, like, he has slotted into this team and he's given it his all. I do feel sorry for him this season. I think it's been a lot very quickly, and I think we've seen the effects maybe of that Euros tournament as well. He's not looked 100% at times. I wasn't keen on the amount of criticism he's been getting, because, he's still been an absolute star for us, and the way that he's kind of slotted in, taken to this team and just ran with it. I've been really impressed with him. I think that there are a lot of players at Man United that don't deserve respect and don't deserve that kind of, I guess, cushion in a way. But I think if anyone does, I think it's somebody like him. I'm not saying, give him whatever he wants, of course, because as Crookie alluded to, allegedly we were going bust this year. Yeah. I'd love to see the proof of this, by the way, because there is no proof of what comes out of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's mouth whatsoever. But out of anyone, he deserves a bit of respect.
Crookie, for you, really quick one. Should Kobbie Mainoo get a new contract now? Does that need to be discussed now with a few years left? Do you see why he wants a new contract, and how cautious or just how much should Man United be giving him?
Well, he wants a pay rise, doesn't he? There's no question about that. I agree that I think 180 grand a week has been over-egged. I was told his demands were nearer 150 grand a week. But United are relaxed because he's still got time left in his contract. My understanding is they've got the option of an extra year on the same money anyway, which I think he is keen to avoid, which is why some of these noises are coming out. I think it will get resolved. I think he'll stay. But obviously, you have to caveat that with the fact that there are still PSR restrictions, PSR worries, if you like. And obviously, as a homegrown player, anything they get from him will be 100% profit. But if they do sell him, there's going to be a lot of big clubs at the table, because I think he's got so much untapped potential. Yes, it's not been his best season. I think he needs a proper pre-season to get used to what Ruben Amorim wants to do, maybe to get himself back to the best physical shape. I agree with Angelina. I think the Euros probably took its toll. He's not the only player in the Premier League. You can say that. I've looked at Phil Foden and his decline, across the city. So I'm not going to give up on Kobbie Mainoo yet, because I described him when he burst onto the scene as a generational talent, and I'm going to stand by that.
Now, with a little wait until our next fixture, we've got to get time right now to get stuck in to some massive debates. So, to set the agenda and be the impartial referee, because we can't be talking about Garnacho and Bruno, these are your favourite guys. We've got to bring in Ryan Statman-Douglas over to you, because these are some juicy topics that I think a lot of the viewers, a lot of the comments are going to be going off, and might get a little bit heated in here as well.
It might get a little bit heated, but we don't mind that. We don't mind cranking the heat up a little bit. Yeah, you know me, Flex. Do we consider Bruno Fernandes a club legend? We're not talking cult heroes. We're not talking a great player for the time. We're talking a club legend. I'm going to set you off right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say yes. Yes, absolutely, I think he's a club legend. Mainly, I mean, Joe, you literally said word for word how I feel about Bruno. I must say it was refreshing to hear it. Honestly, I'm talking about someone who has the most goal involvements in Europa League history. Now, what you're going to say is, it's not in the Champions League, but that's not his fault. He can only play the tournaments that he plays, and he's got the most goal involvements in Europa League history. He's obviously in the 50-50 club now for goals and assists. And we're talking with the likes of Beckham, Scholes, Giggs, Cantona, Rooney. He's in good company there, by the way. And I know Crook is down the line. and I know he likes Cantona. So what I'll say here is between 1992 and 1997, I think it was 64 goals and 51 assists Cantona got. Bruno, between 2020 and 2025, has got 62 goals and 50 assists. So he's 2 goals and 1 assist off that. We're talking proper numbers here. So for me, if your measuring stick is we've not won a trophy and we're not the greatest team in the Premier League at the moment, then fine. But my measuring stick is, at the darkest day, he has stood out more than anybody else. So yes, he's a club legend for me. Flex, you're looking at me.
This is interesting. I'm going to open up the floor first. Joe, your debut here on the show. Is Bruno Fernandes, or should we consider Bruno Fernandes as a Manchester United legend?
I think so. Right, it's hard, isn't it? Because if your metric is, if you haven't won a number of Premier Leagues for Man United, you can't be a legend, then you can rule it out. And if that's your stick, that's fine. I can see why it would be. We've won too much to allow players who've never won a Premier League into that Legends Club. If that's your rule, fine. But if you're looking at what he's actually done in the time he's been here, he has done a hell of a lot. He's done by far more than anyone else that's been at United at the same time. So he is, for basically a 5 and 6 year period, by far Manchester United's best player, which, a lot of these legends are ticking that similar box, aren't they? You look at what he's done and the trophies that he's won, he's not won very many, but he's one of the main reasons we've won anything. Like the goals that he scores, the fact that he puts it on a plate for his teammates consistently. He's literally the best player in his position in the world over the 6 year span that he's been here, other than maybe Kevin De Bruyne. When you look at, they sort of go back and forth on the numbers, but I think those two are probably the best in the world in that position. What more can you ask for? Yes, you can say that the trophies argument, and I get that, but he can't, I'm sure he would rather have played with Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez.
And if he did, it would be scary hours.
Neville. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he would have rather played with them as well. And it's not his fault he doesn't, and the fact that we've been mismanaged and we didn't have Sir Alex to sort of rely on when the Glazers are trying to ruin things at Man United, he's had to deal with all that. And actually, let's give him that as well, because he's had to deal with that. He hasn't had the joy of being able to play with these great players under an ownership and a management that works and makes sense. He's doing all of this stuff despite everyone else, not because of them. I think for me, he's definitely a Manchester United legend. And when you think he's going to be doing dinners and he's going to be doing, coming up on stage, he's going to be introduced as a Manchester United legend, and rightly so, personally.
Yeah. Angelina?
I agree with Joe, to be completely honest. I've gone back and forth over this in my head, and I think it obviously depends what people define as a legend. For me, you take trophies out of it because you cannot single-handedly drag a whole... I mean, maybe one or two people have, I don't know. Maybe talk about Messi in that World Cup final. He dragged them to that, didn't he? But overall, Bruno Fernandes cannot force a trophy for everyone. It has to be a group effort. That's why you play with 11 people. So for me, taking trophies aside, what do you want a club legend to look like? He's somebody who's the captain. Fair enough, people might argue, there's not a lot of options for the captain, but somebody who has a really good work rate, I think he has. Somebody who understands the assignment of playing for Manchester United, I think he has. His behaviour off the pitch, I think we've talked about it many, many times, the way that he has tried to help ensure that members of staff could go to Wembley, that the women's team, that their families could go to Wembley to watch them lift the FA Cup. Things like that, I think he's great. He's stood up. He's one of those players, stand up and be counted. He has done that. So I think when you consider all of those things, and like Joe touched on with Kevin De Bruyne, I think since his debut, Kevin De Bruyne has recorded more assists across all competitions than Bruno Fernandes. When you're talking about Europe's big 5 leagues, that's it. So I think his numbers, I think the type of player that he is, the person that he is, people want to shout and scream about him, throwing his arms up in the air and all that stuff. Find me how many players do it? how many players throw their arms up in the air, or they taunt, or they huff, or whatever. People have seen that Bruno Fernandes does it because he's the captain. They hammer him, they go in on him. Even his reaction to this Roy Keane thing, when, in my opinion, it was too harsh. But for him to be like, you know what, I respect Roy Keane and what he's got to say, and if people are giving me criticisms that I need to improve and do better, then I'll take that on board. With everything, I just think he's been great, and I understand, you know, people might think he's not won the Premier League, whatever. He has still won some trophies with us, and I think, yeah, he's been a great example to players coming through as well.
Crookie, I really want to get your take on this. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. I think he's going to have
something different to say.
Crookie, the question is, should Bruno Fernandes be considered as a Manchester United legend?
Come on, Crookie.
Drum roll.
Why do I feel like I'm going to be the voice of reason in this debate? I mean,
you're
honestly,
as
soon as the stat man started to go there, comparing Bruno Fernandes,
I knew that would get you.
Nasty work. He knew what he was doing. Yeah, he knew.
Like, you've lost me completely there. You know, Eric Cantona not only transformed the face of Manchester United, we would not be sat here now on this programme. There would be no Inside Devils without Eric Cantona, because the juggernaut that is Manchester United would not exist in the form that we know it. He transformed the face of English football. He took English football into a new stratosphere at a time when there weren't that many foreign players in the league. Now, obviously, we're awash with foreign superstars. And I think people like Cantona and Gianfranco Zola and Dennis Bergkamp opened the floodgates. Bruno Fernandes is a good player. He's a better player than a lot of the pundits give him credit for. He's certainly a better player than a lot of rival fans give him credit for. But he's not a legend. Come on,
Crookie, what makes him a legend then in your eyes? How can he not? What has he got to do? Win a Premier League?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't see how. And I know your big hobby horse is that we shouldn't compare this Manchester United to Roy Keane's Manchester United, and I get that. But actually, the flip side of the coin is those are the standards. That's the ceiling that these players should be comparing themselves to. And I don't see Bruno Fernandes on that level.
Is Gerrard a legend for Liverpool?
Yeah, because of what he did in the FA Cup final, because of what he did in the Champions League final in Istanbul.
See,
Bruno Fernandes has won one FA Cup
factor in
and
the
one
trophies,
League Cup.
but he's still won trophies for us. And, you know, if he wins a Europa League, for example, this season, I don't know, man. I think, and we talk about his captain credentials and all that kind of stuff as well. He's created 60 chances and made 60 tackles this season. No one else in the league has done that. Like, I think it's hard. If the measuring stick is a trophy...
He's a good player. I'd go as far as to say he's a great player.
Yeah.
But I think legend is an overused word in football. And I just don't think you can put him in that bracket. And by the way, this is not Alex Crook hammering Bruno Fernandes. I love Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
If Bruno Fernandes wasn't in our team, we'd be out of Europe. We'd probably be a lot closer to the relegation line than we are, although those three that came up from the Championship are absolute dross. He has single-handedly at times, not just this season, but in previous years, carried the team. And that's why you can be a captain in different ways. I don't like a lot of the theatrics and the histrionics, but I think it's partly the acts of a frustrated man. But he's certainly led by example, and he seems a fantastic guy as well. I go back to the story, waiting with the kids outside Old Trafford. Most of the players, Marcus Rashford included, ignored the autograph hunters, ignored the young kids who were waiting on their school holiday just for a glimpse of their heroes. Bruno Fernandes comes straight over. My daughter's got the picture in a frame in her room. He gave them the time of day. That is leadership. So there are different ways to lead. Despite that, though, not a legend. And do not compare him to Eric Cantona.
We thought Crookie might go this way. We're going to go to the second one. Just a quick one for me.
Oh, yeah. You avoided that.
I didn't avoid it. No, I just wanted to see what everyone was saying. No avoidance tactics here. I'm a Crookie on this. I love Bruno Fernandes, and I hate that actually this debate has kind of come up now because I am like staunch.
Yeah, I know.
Like, leave Bruno alone, get your name out his mouth. Anyone who thinks he's a problem at Man United don't understand football. I'm like strong on that. And I agree with every single thing that you guys have said of why he's right to be our captain, why he's disrespected. I've said on record many times, he is the most overhated player I think I've seen in the last 10 years. Like, I can't remember another player who like is so much like Marmite, but it's all there in front of you of how important he is. But I'm just with Crookie on the last bit. I just think it's not his fault, but it's a byproduct of him existing. It's not his fault, but because he's existed, in an era where we can't compete for the top trophies, I just feel like our bar for people being legends at Man United has always been, you're in those teams, you're winning the biggest trophies, and we have to maybe adapt it. But I just feel a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's just a passion thing. It's a thing from the old school. Like I'm a bit like that. I'm just like, nah. It's like saying, oh, we're gonna Anderson and like Ji-sung Park is like. He's a United legend, but he's more of a great cult hero. Bruno, he's a great player.
4 Premier Leagues, though. He's not a legend.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So you can, I get that.
So did Brian Robson not become a United legend until 1993?
Yeah, when he started winning the Premier towards the end.
League.
Yeah, that's true.
Amorim believes he's seen improvement. Ratcliffe backing him in the long run. But, and I'm opening it up here. I'll start with Ange. I'm seeing the eyebrows raised. Have we seen enough from Amorim? Can we say he's going to be Man United's manager for years to come?
Depends what mood Jim Ratcliffe's in. To be completely, it depends what mood this man is in.
Does it not depend on if Amorim does the business as well?
No, because I don't trust these people. I do not trust Ineos to make smart decisions. You know, he's gone on this, PR parade, Jim. You know what? Even his own brother doesn't know him, because there was an article in the Times about how Jim Ratcliffe's brother said he would never buy a Premier League club. He'd never ever buy a Premier League club, and then what does he do? Buy one. Even his own family don't know what he's thinking. The thing is, I think you have to back Ruben Amorim. The absolute mess of this Eric Ten Hag situation, which, fair enough, he came out and said it was a mistake, round of applause. But the mess that they made of that, you cannot now backtrack on this guy. You have to stick with him. He's been given a contract. He 100% should see out that contract. I think they will, but I cannot say with 100% certainty, because, like I've said a million times, ruthless businessman, ruthless in the complete wrong ways as far as I've seen, and the way that he is just pulling the plug on things and doing whatever he feels like, there's just a lack of trust there for me. But with what I've seen of Ruben Amorim, I get the critics, I get people saying, it's taken this long for us to start to see something positive, whatever. He has had to come in halfway through a season. He's dealing with players that have got a terrible mentality. None of them are his players. He's dealing with one of the hardest jobs in world football, if not the hardest at the moment. He's dealing with the press. He's dealing with Ineos. He's not dealing with the Glazers, because he probably just never even heard from them. But overall, I think you have to give him some props, and I personally think that he should be the manager for the foreseeable. They did the whole with the stadium. Oh yeah, we hope Bruno. We hope Ruben's here. And if the stadium gets built, then yes, he should still be in charge.
Joe, for you, are we seeing enough improvement there, do you think?
Yeah, sorry.
Ratcliffe aside.
Ratcliffe aside, though, can you? Because he owns Man United, and like you said, he's admitted to making mistakes with Ashworth and with Ten Hag. And what's nice is someone admitting they made mistakes. But do you know what's even nicer? Not making mistakes.
Yeah.
So if we didn't do that and we'd done things a different way, we might not even have Amorim. We might have Thomas Tuchel right now.
But the part of the question of have you seen enough from Amorim?
Well,
be comfortable.
So if I own Jim Ratcliffe, if I own Manchester United, and it's up to me, and we don't have to defer to the mind of this unknowable Jim Ratcliffe, then I would always give a manager more time. And this is obviously going to look a little bit silly now, but I would have given Ten Hag all of this season, because either sack him in the summer or give him the full season, because what we gave Amorim was an absolute nightmare.
It's
to
like
come
setting
into.
him up to fail almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And and it's nice that we're doing this now after sort of basically most of 2025 has been half decent for United. I think we've only lost 4 games in pushing 3 months, so that's pretty good. But if we'd have had this conversation at the end of December, we might not feel the same. And in 2 months' time, when the season ends, we might not feel the same. If we go out comfortably to Lyon and win, 3 of our next 9 league games or whatever it may be, we might not be talking like this. And that's my worry is, does everyone just get pushed and pulled so much by form that you don't actually stick with a plan? Because the plan with Ten Hag was never to give him till November, because that's the most absurd, ludicrous, fault-laden plan you can possibly imagine. And yet we did it.
And they didn't want to.
Exactly.
They didn't want to.
So I think that they have to just decide. Certainly, he has to stay till the end of next season, minimum, because this one doesn't count. All you're doing now is basically giving them this season as a prolonged pre-season, working out who's good, who isn't, who I need to get rid of, and then next season's really, for me, Amorim's first season. And then you can start judging him. But until, May 2026, it's not even entering my mouth the idea that Ruben Amorim should leave Manchester United. It's preposterous.
Crookie, for you, listen, we've been terrible in the league, of course, out of the domestic cups, so not much to shout about, and everything does hang on this Europa League. But regardless of that, have you seen enough improvement, just again, away from the Sir Jim Ratcliffe eyes and stuff like that? Have you seen enough in Ruben Amorim to suggest that, we've got to get behind this guy?
Yeah, I think I have. I think if you go back to Arsenal away from home in the FA Cup, Liverpool at Anfield, when I think that's still probably the best 90-minute performance we've seen from an Amorim team. And then you look at the progress in Europe, you look at the second half at home against Arsenal. I think we are seeing signs, but the squad's going to look very different for the start of next season. Lindelof will go, Eriksen will go. I think Rashford will go permanently, Antony will go permanently. I think Casemiro will go if they can find someone to take him off their payroll. So I think you have to reserve judgment until he's got his own players, and he's had a full pre-season. I think it's so important. He didn't want to take the job mid-season. I think you can see why, because his style of play is so intense. It's taken a lot of players a long time to get up to speed, but I think they are slowly but surely getting up to speed, and I hope that will come to fruition in time for that Europa League final in Bilbao, and we can all go out there and have a nice jolly. Angelina can book the restaurants now. But the other thing to factor in, if you decide that Amorim isn't the right man for the job, where on earth do you turn next? Who's going to take this job? Because let's not beat around the bush. Despite what Sir Jim Ratcliffe says, the sole reason that Erik ten Hag stayed in charge in the summer is because they spoke to Thomas Tuchel. He didn't want the job. They spoke to Roberto De Zerbi. He didn't want the job. He went to Marseille instead. They spoke to Kieran McKenna. He didn't want the job. Thank heavens, when you look at what Messi's made of Ipswich this season, he signed a new deal at Portman Road. This is not the most desirable job in the country right now. It's not anywhere near as desirable as it used to be. And I think Amorim was brave, leaving a comfortable project at Sporting, and he won the league again at Acanter, to take this on mid-season, knowing that there would be many more lows than highs over the course of the campaign. There would be questions asked about his style of management and his tactics. I say fair play to the guy, and I think it'll work out in the end.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for you, Ryan, come on in, give your opinion on this one really quickly.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think he's seen enough. What we've seen so far is a manager who composes himself really well. In front of the cameras, he speaks really well. He's refreshingly honest. We've got a manager who's got an identity. If you look back at Erik ten Hag, he quickly abandoned this identity, and then it was, we can't see a style of play. That was a top criticism for Erik ten Hag. We can't see a style of play. Can't see a style of play. We've got someone who wants to implement a style of play now. I agree with everybody. Give him the time. At least we can all agree with something on the panel.
Yes.
There we go.
We definitely do all agree. And I second all of that. I'm not the odd one out. No, I agree with absolutely all of you. We need to back Ruben. We need to give him the players that he needs. We need to give him the time. We need to give him the infrastructure. And now just let him work. Just let him work, And I'm sure he'll have us back to winning ways. That's all we've got time for on this week's Inside Devils. A big thank you to Alex Crook, Angelina Kelly, and Joe Smith making his debut today in the studio. And of course, Ryan Statman Douglas. We'll see you on another episode very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.